Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before we jump into today's story, I've got a quick question for you. Have you ever been cheated on? Or do you know someone who has? Let me know down in the comments. I'm really curious to hear your experiences. Alright, grab a drink, get comfortable, and I don't even know how to start this because every time I think back to that night, I still feel that same punch in the gut. The kind of pain that makes your chest feel hollow, like someone reached inside and ripped something vital out of you. It was supposed to be just another ordinary evening. I had finished up late at work, exhausted but strangely excited because I had picked up some food on the way home. My girlfriend and I had been arguing a little lately. Nothing major, just small things about schedules, chores, the usual relationship stuff. And honestly, I thought a quiet night together would smooth things over. Dinner, a movie, maybe just holding each other and pretending the world outside didn't exist for a few hours. I still remember the exact sound my keys made in the lock. Usually, I'd hear her voice right away, or the TV in the background, but that night, silence. I stepped in, set the food down on the counter, and something just felt off. You know that weird instinct your body gets before your brain can even process it? Like your stomach tightens before your mind understands why. That was me, standing in my own apartment, realizing something wasn't right. At first, I thought maybe she had stepped out. Shoes were still there, though. Her bag was on the couch. Then I heard it, a muffled sound coming from the bedroom. Not just any sound, laughter. A man's laugh. I froze. My entire body went cold. I wanted to believe I was imagining it, that maybe the TV was on in the bedroom. But then her voice followed. Her laugh, mixed with his. Every step I took down that hallway felt like I was marching toward my own execution. I pushed the door open, and there it was, the kind of scene that no one ever prepares you for, even in nightmares. My girlfriend, the woman I thought I'd spend my life with, in our bed with someone else. And not just anyone. My coworker. Time slowed. I didn't even feel anger at first. It was pure disbelief. Like I had slipped into some alternate universe where nothing made sense. She gasped when she saw me, scrambled for excuses, but my eyes weren't on her. They were on him, the guy I worked with every single day, someone I grabbed beers with after shifts, someone I trusted. I can't even describe the mix of emotions that hit me in that moment. Betrayal, rage, humiliation, heartbreak. It all collided into this overwhelming numbness. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just shut down. He had the nerve to smirk, like I was the intruder in my own home. That smirk will haunt me forever. I remember turning around, walking out without a word. She called after me, voice shaking, like she wanted to explain. But explain what? There's no explanation for something like that. I left the apartment, slammed the door so hard it rattled the frame, and I just kept walking. I didn't know where I was going. My phone buzzed, her name lighting up the screen again and again, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. I couldn't even think straight. Eventually, I ended up at my buddy's place. He opened the door, saw my face, and didn't even ask questions. Just let me crash on his couch. I lay there all night staring at the ceiling, my brain replaying that moment on a loop like some kind of torture reel. That was the night everything shattered. And honestly, I thought it couldn't get worse than that. But I was wrong. The next morning hit me like a freight train. I hadn't slept, not even for a second. My friend's couch was comfortable enough, but my mind wouldn't let me rest. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it again. The smirk on his face, the panic in hers, the sound of their laughter echoing from my bedroom. I kept asking myself, how long? How long had this been going on behind my back? Was it just that night, or was it happening for weeks? Months? Had I been the fool in the room the whole time, smiling, trusting, while they snuck around, couldn't eat? My friend tried to hand me some coffee, a bagel, anything, but it just sat there untouched. My stomach was in knots. Then came the texts. First, it was just, "Where are you? Are you okay? Can we talk?" Short, simple, emotionless. Like she was checking in after a minor argument, not after detonating the nuclear bomb that blew our relationship to pieces. I stared at my phone, numb. No apology. No confession. No acknowledgement of what I had seen with my own eyes. Just, can we talk? Like she wanted to control the damage, not own up to it. Then came the calls. My screen lit up with her name every few minutes. I let them ring out. Couldn't hear her voice. Not yet. Not after what she'd done. By the afternoon, she tried harder. Longer messages this time. Excuses. Deflections. The classic lines. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. You don't understand. I was drunk. This isn't who I am. I laughed bitterly reading those words. A mistake is forgetting to lock the door. A mistake is burning the toast. Climbing into bed with my coworker. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. A deliberate, gut-wrenching, soul-crushing choice. And the worst part? She still didn't say sorry. Not once. Not in any of those messages. She wasn't apologizing for hurting me. She was scrambling to save herself. That evening, when I knew she'd be at work, I made my move. I couldn't stay at my friend's place forever, and I damn sure wasn't going to step foot into that apartment while she was there. So I went back. My hands were shaking. The silence felt heavier than the night before. Every corner of that apartment felt tainted, poisoned by what I had witnessed. I grabbed a duffel bag and packed only the essentials. Clothes, toiletries, documents, the things I couldn't live without. I thought about leaving a note. Something short and sharp. Like, we're done. But then I realized, why should I? Why should I give her the courtesy of an explanation when she hadn't given me one? So I just left. As I closed the door behind me, a strange sense of finality washed over me. Not relief, not yet. Just finality. Like I had just buried something that was once alive and breathing but had rotted beyond repair. Of course, she didn't let it end there. That night, more texts rolled in. She accused me of overreacting. Said it was a one-time thing. Asked me to just hear her out. And I blocked her. Everywhere. Phone, social media, email. I erased her voice from my life in one clean sweep. It felt brutal, but it also felt necessary. Still, the silence that followed wasn't peace. It was emptiness. The kind of emptiness that makes you question everything. Not just your relationship, but yourself. Who you are. What you're worth. Whether you were blind the whole time. That night, lying again on my friend's couch, I told myself it was over. That I would start moving forward. That I wouldn't look back. But I was wrong. Because the next blow came from somewhere I never expected. From him. And that's when things got even darker. I thought I had seen the worst of it. I thought walking in on them together was the lowest point I'd ever sink to. But then came the moment I had to face him. Not in my home, not in the shadows of betrayal, but right there in broad daylight, in the middle of my workplace. It was only my second day back at work after everything went down. I had barely managed to drag myself in, still operating on autopilot. The office felt colder, emptier somehow, even though no one else knew what had happened. To them, it was just another Tuesday. To me, it was the battlefield of my humiliation. I avoided him the entire morning, kept my head down, drowned myself in meaningless tasks, pretended to be busier than I was. Every second that ticked by felt like someone was twisting a knife in my chest. I couldn't escape the thought. He was in my bed. He touched her. He looked me in the eye every day while doing this behind my back. Lunchtime came and I thought I had made it. I thought I could get through the day without having to see him. But just as I was heading for the break room, he caught me. Hey man, we need to talk. I'll never forget his tone. Calm. Casual. Like he wasn't the villain in this story. Like he was the one doing me a favor by pulling me aside. Against my better judgment, I braced myself for an apology. Some pathetic excuse. Some attempt at damage control. But what he said next made my blood run cold. I'm not going to apologize. That was his opener. No hesitation, no shame, just straight to it. I like her, he said, staring me dead in the eye. I'm not sorry for that. You and we were never close. Not really. And she wants me. So I'm not going to stand here and pretend I regret it. I swear, it took everything inside me not to break his jaw right there. The audacity, the smugness dripping off every word he spoke. He didn't just take something from me. He wanted me to know he felt entitled to it. My fists clenched. My nails dug into my palms so hard I thought I'd draw blood. Every instinct screamed at me to hit him, to make him feel even a fraction of the pain he'd dumped on me. But I didn't. Instead, I looked him square in the face, swallowed the fire burning in my throat, and said 4 words that shocked even me. "You can have her." He blinked, confused, probably expected me to scream, to threaten, to throw a punch. But my voice was calm, dead calm, because in that moment, I realized something. He wasn't worth it. Neither of them were. But I wasn't finished. "I'll be speaking to HR." I said it slowly, clearly, so every syllable landed like a hammer. And for the first time, his confidence faltered. His smirk slipped, just a little. I walked away before he could respond. My legs were shaking, but my head was high. I could feel his eyes burning into my back. But I didn't care. Later that week, HR called me in. I told them everything. Not about the affair itself, that wasn't their business. But about the hostile work environment, the betrayal, the impossibility of working alongside him after what had happened. They listened, they nodded, and they promised they'd handle it. Within days, he was reassigned to another team. Not gone, not completely, but at least no longer breathing down my neck every hour of the day. Still, the encounters didn't stop entirely. I'd see him in the break room, in the parking lot, passing by in the hallway. Every time, that smirk lingered, like he was daring me to lose control. Management told me they were working on transferring him to another branch entirely. "As soon as an opening comes up," they said. Until then, they kept us separated as much as possible. No shared projects, no joint meetings, just a thin layer of distance between us. But distance doesn't erase betrayal. It doesn't erase the image burned into my skull of the 2 of them together. It doesn't silence the voice in my head that whispers late at night. Was she with him again? Even after I left? Was she choosing him over me now? That confrontation at work was supposed to give me closure. Instead, it opened up a new wound, the realization that not everyone feels guilt when they destroy you. Some people, they enjoy it. And that thought stayed with me, gnawing at me, as I tried to rebuild the pieces of my life. But rebuilding wasn't easy, because even as I put physical distance between myself and them, the ghost of what they'd done followed me everywhere. And that was when I realized I needed more than space. I needed a new life entirely. The emptiness wasn't just about losing her. It was about losing myself. Losing the version of me that trusted, that believed in people, that thought love meant safety. That guy was gone. And in his place was someone harder, colder, more suspicious of everything. And yet, there were moments, small ones, that gave me hope. The first night I slept in my new place and woke up without hearing her voice or seeing her things scattered around. The first time I cooked a meal for myself in that tiny kitchen and actually enjoyed it. The first paycheck I spent entirely on me, not on us. They were little victories, tiny steps, but they mattered. I kept telling myself healing isn't a straight line. Some days I felt strong. Other days I collapsed under the weight of it all. And that was okay. Because at least I wasn't stuck anymore. At least I wasn't living a lie. Still, no matter how far I tried to run from it, the betrayal lingered like a shadow. At work, I'd still run into him sometimes. A passing glance in the hallway, a brief encounter in the parking lot. And every time, that smirk, the one that had been burned into my memory, reminded me of the darkness I was trying to escape. But I told myself this wasn't the end. This was the beginning. I had lost them both, yes, but maybe that loss was making space for something else, something better. For now, though, it was just me, my tiny studio, and the long, quiet nights where I tried to remember what it felt like to be whole. And as the days went by, I started to see it clearly. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find yourself again. But even then, one final lesson still waited for me. And it would change the way I looked at relationships forever. It's been months now since that night, and sometimes it still feels like a bad dream. Other times, it feels too real, like it only happened yesterday. That's the thing about betrayal, it doesn't just leave scars, it rewrites the way you see the world. But here's what I've learned. At first, I thought I'd never recover. I thought the pain would swallow me whole, that the emptiness would stretch on forever. I imagined myself stuck in that loop, replaying the moment over and over until it became the only thing I knew. But slowly, almost invisibly at first, life began to creep back in. It started with small things. Buying furniture for my studio, hanging up a cheap poster just so the walls didn't look so bare, cooking a real meal instead of eating takeout every night. Tiny victories that made me feel human again. And then bigger things. Finishing a huge project at work and getting praised for it. Going out with friends and laughing. Not the forced laughter I had at first, but the real kind, the kind that bubbles up from somewhere you thought was gone. Waking up one morning and realizing I hadn't thought about her for days. That was the moment I knew I was healing. I won't lie to you, it wasn't a clean process. Some days I still woke up bitter. Some nights I still dreamed about walking into that room. And sometimes, when I'd see couples holding hands on the street, I'd feel a sharp, unfair jealousy. But healing doesn't mean never hurting again. Healing means the pain stops controlling you. Do I trust people easily now? No. That part of me is still gone. Maybe forever. But I've learned to trust myself. To listen to that gut feeling I ignored for too long. Because here's the truth. Your instincts are rarely wrong. We always notice the cracks before the collapse. We just choose not to look too closely. I ignored the signs with her. The late nights at work. The sudden distance. The way her phone was always face down on the table. I told myself I was paranoid, that I was imagining things. But deep down I knew. I just didn't want it to be true. If I could give one piece of advice to anyone listening, it's this: trust your gut. If something feels off, it usually is. And it's better to face that truth early than to be blindsided the way I was. As for him, the coworker, I barely see him now. HR eventually transferred him to another branch, just like they said they would. He's out of my daily orbit, and I thank God for that. Do I still hate him? Yes. But hating him doesn't define me anymore. He took enough from me already. I refuse to let him take more. And her? She's a ghost. A stranger who used to share my bed, my life, my dreams. I don't know where she is now, and I don't care. For a long time, I wanted closure, some grand explanation that would make sense of it all. But the truth is, closure isn't something they give you. It's something you build for yourself. And I've built mine. Now, my focus is on me. On my work, my friendships, my health. On becoming someone stronger. Someone who won't ignore the signs again. Dating? Maybe one day. But not yet. I owe myself this time to rebuild, to heal, to figure out who I am without the weight of betrayal dragging me down. So here I am, standing on the other side of hell, scarred but still standing. And if you're listening to this, wondering if you can survive your own heartbreak, your own betrayal, trust me, you can. It will feel impossible at first. You'll think the pain will never end. But slowly, step by step, you'll find yourself again. And when you do, you'll realize something powerful. Losing them wasn't the end of your story. It was just the beginning of a new one. Because sometimes the most painful endings are the ones that set you free. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to support the channel. It helps more than you know. Take care, and I hope you have an amazing day.